The trackless deserts of Arabia, there are few places in the world more inhospitable. But for centuries, this has been home to the remarkable people known as the Bedouin. Scorched by wind and sun, they have crossed and recrossed the desert in search of food, water and grazing land.
Brown and waterless, unthinkable to most of the world's people. Bedouins, whose very name breathes romance, adventure and hardship.
When this nomadic people do settle somewhere for a time, they build temporary villages of palm frond shacks.
Sparse trees
the life is a hard one.
Provide shelter
it's
from
not
the blazing
possible
sun
to squeeze a living out of land like
family.
this without long days of toil. And that's especially true for the women.
Goats, camels and other animals share this rough home in the desert.
Hard as it is, the Bedouin have accepted this life, with its simple diet of dates, goat's flesh and milk, plus what corn they could grow.
Here the women do the work.
In the past,
they
there's
draw
been little
water from
alternative.
the well,
But that's no longer true.
Look after and
in the last
educate
few
the children,
years, the world around them has been changing rapidly. The reason, of course, is oil. This is Abu Dhabi on the Arabian Gulf. The area was once known as the Pirate Coast, though for the last 17 years, the buried treasure here has been crude oil. The search for more oil and gas reserves has stepped up, and Abu Dhabi began exporting it in 1962. Last year alone, it earned the Emirate $4,500 million in revenue. The new industry has changed both the appearance of the desert and the very structure of Bedouin life. As capital of the world's 8th largest oil-exporting nation, Abu Dhabi city today is a cosmopolitan center. The discovery of mineral wealth prompted a rapid boom in building, and the sand was soon covered with a spreading carpet of concrete. Immigrant laborers came in from neighboring states and from Iran and Pakistan to help develop the city. It's become a magnet for oilmen and businessmen who've helped Abu Dhabi's city dwellers share the new prosperity. There are few better examples of the change than down on the waterfront. Here it was timeless and traditional until the bulldozers moved in. The city's skyline today bears the familiar marks of Western modernization. Buildings thrust to the sky as ground space becomes scarce and sought after. Among the buildings below, one of the signs of Abu Dhabi's growing importance in the Middle East, the headquarters of the mighty Arab Monetary Fund, which deals not in mere millions of petrodollars, but billions. The rise to prosperity has happened quickly, but not carelessly. To take advantage of the newfound wealth has needed careful planning. And one of the main architects of the new Abu Dhabi has been Sheikh Zayed bin Sultan Al Nahyan. Sheikh Zayed is ruler of Abu Dhabi and president of the United Arab Emirates, a confederation of 7 sheikdoms established in 1971. Zayed has held the UAE post from its foundation. He came to power in Abu Dhabi 11 years ago when he succeeded his brother, the conservative Sheikh Shagbut, who was reluctant to spend money on development. Unlike his brother, Zayed is prepared to spend on his people. The problem is, how?
ومن الإمارات الأخرى الأعضاء الشارقة التي يحكمها صاحب السمو الشيخ سلطان بن محمد القاسمي.
Most of the 650,000 people in the Emirates aren't naturally city dwellers. Many have moved from the desert, lured by the chance of new jobs and Western-style luxuries. But essentially, the people are nomads, whose natural environment is the vastness of the desert, free of such strange confines as roads, districts and suburbs. Desert living is a simple existence,
general stores
but with no local shops, it's not so easy to get hold of basic necessities.
The people must
Buying
wait until
anything
the peddler
means a
calls,
journey into the city,
mattresses,
or a long
cooking
wait until a
pots,
travelling
clothes,
peddler arrives.
and the other necessities of a simple life.
On paper at least, the Bedouin aren't poor. Dividing Abu Dhabi's oil wealth by the number of inhabitants yields the figure of $12,800 per head.
Calmly
but
here,
that, of course,
as it
means
has done
nothing
for
to
centuries.
people living in conditions like this.
Coffee is served, an age-old Bedouin relaxation, allowing a pause for reflection, village gossip, or to hear news of friends.
Such remoteness means the Bedouin have to eat whatever comes to hand. Corn, meat from their animals,
The meals are
rice,
simple.
the occasional
In the
delicacy,
afternoon,
and of
dates
course
or fruit are
dates.
served.
Nutritionally,
In the evening,
it's all they
meat,
need,
fish or
but by
chicken
Western
dishes
standards,
are eaten
there's
with
little
bread and
variety in
coffee.
eating, or indeed in other aspects of the Bedouin way of life.
But now the Bedouin's life is changing.
One of Sheikh
The
Zayed's
United Arab
tasks
Emirates is
has
seeing
been to give the
progress as
Bedouin
rapid
some
as
of the
the gushing of oil
advantages of his
from
country's
1,000 wells.
burgeoning economy
With the
without
progress,
destroying
men
their
are moving
tradition
towards
or the
the cities,
lifestyle they
drawn
hold
by
dear.
new opportunities and
And
desires.
since he knows that the Bedouin
But those
won't
same
come to the
cities
city,
can so
he's
easily
now
become places
spending
of
millions of
poverty and
petrodollars to
disappointment.
take city comforts out to them. He's doing it with new villages like this.
So Sheikh Zayed and his government have decided instead to bring progress
Here
to
they
the
can
Bedouin
enjoy
people.
comforts like
Modern
electricity,
villages are
gas,
springing up
running
in
water
remote
and
areas
sanitation.
of the Emirates.
But they
They're
will be
built
able
by
to
the new
maintain their
prosperity,
centuries-old
so that the Bedouin may
lifestyle in
stay
these
in his
homes
beloved
where they
desert
live rent-free.
and yet still take advantage of the
Authorities
new
plan to
ideas.
build 10,000
New
homes
homes
this
are being
year.
built for the Bedouin,
Many will be
but
for
all
the
that's
Bedouin.
changing is the structure and planning of the houses themselves. Family life will continue as before, but with the advantage of better schooling, healthcare and living standards. Building is close to the main highway to Abu Dhabi, an essential lifeline for supplies. New trees are growing out of the desert.
Vast sums of money
Successful
are being
outcome of
spent in a
massive
drive to
reforestation
turn the
scheme
desert green.
to bring new quality
Massive
and colour
irrigation
to desert
projects
life.
help grow trees, providing fruit and timber. Moves are underway to make the UAE self-sufficient in vegetables. Meat-producing farms are being set up. 600
This village,
milking cows will
Al-Khazna,
be
will
imported
soon
from
be
New
home
Zealand
for
to
several
provide
hundred
dairy
Bedouin
products.
families.
The
And with a
reason
mosque,
for this agricultural
school,
drive is
clinic
quite
and a
simple.
group of stores
The
among the new
UAE
streets.
spent a
All
staggering
the needs of the village
$400
can be met
million
within one
last year
compact
to
environment.
import essential farm products. This new village, Al-Khazna, is in a region where
No
Zayed
longer
was
will the women
provincial
of this
governor
village have
before
to
he
walk to
succeeded
the well.
his brother as ruler.
The tanker will fill
Now
the
the
storage
people
tank
of
of each
Al-Khazna
house
have
and
their
call
water
again when
delivered
they
by
run dry.
tanker, and each house has its own storage tank.
It's sweet, clear water, fresh from the mountains to the east.
Despite the modernization, traditional links remain strong.
Always
The
welcome
villagers'
in the new
animals, for
villages.
instance, still
Without
play
them,
their vital
Bedouin
role
life
while
would lose
preserving
its
an
meaning.
important Bedouin tradition.
Is still the principal means of transport. Why not? The desert now runs right down the new high street.
Some things are slow to change. A Bedouin woman
opportunities.
is still masked as she cooks in the style of her ancestors.
The familiar things,
And yet
though,
it's happening
no
in a
one wants
state
to leave
which
behind.
gives over
The big black
25% of
cooking
its
pot
income in
is an old
loans
friend
and
to the
aid to
Bedouin
third
wife.
world nations, and whose public expenditure last year was over 67,000 million US dollars.
Indoors, husbands and children wait for
As
their
the
dinner
men wait
in
for
rather
their
more
meal,
splendor
they
and
enjoy
comfort
coffee
than
made
before.
with an electric percolator. But the biggest labour saver for Al Khazna villages is the local shops. Instead of relying on the peddler or trekking miles across the desert for supplies, they just have to walk down the street.
And the peddler has earned his rest.
At this
These shops
state-owned
now
store,
stock everything that people
everyone
of Al
has an
Khazna
allocation
need
of
for their
basic
everyday
commodities
lives.
which they can buy at controlled prices.
Trading, it seems, goes on just as before, but over a wooden counter instead of a carpet and coffee pot.
The government's aim isn't to stifle free enterprise. The only goods sold here are rice, flour and sugar. But they're enough to keep down the cost of living and protect the Bedouin from the effects of inflation.
Flour, rice
The lack
and
of
sugar
choice
are
does
the only
not mean
commodities
it's
sold in
unpopular
this
with
government
shoppers.
store.
At prices like these, the villagers are glad to come to spend their United Arab Emirates dirham.
All prices are rigidly controlled.
Capitalism is also hard at work in Al Khazna.
An exciting
This
new
privately
facility
owned
is the general store.
offers the Bedouin a
Before
choice
this
they would
opened,
never have
here on
seen in
everybody's
their nomadic
doorstep,
days.
imported
It
goods,
ranges from
toys,
luxuries like
books
cigarettes and
luxuries
perfumed
meant a
soap
long
to
desert
disinfectant.
journey. Now, all you need is the money.
In contrast to the 3 food items stocked in the state store, this shop must seem like a gourmet's dream for villagers. Arab delicacies await them, as well as items from the West.
Cigarettes, perfume,
Convenience
soap,
foods are on sale for the
cosmetics and
housewife with
disinfectant
better things
are
to
fast
do than
becoming
spend
everyday
hours
items
labouring
on the
over a
Bedouin
cooking
shopping
stove.
list.
Mothers don't have to worry about many of the problems they've faced as nomads in the desert.
Progress also means the sight of strange machinery parked on the sand, like this grader, which has been levelling the desert dunes to...
The shops have had an immediate impact on the Bedouin lifestyle, but the changes that
Above
will
all,
have most
progress
effect
means
over the long
education
term
for all.
are being prepared
New
here,
schools like
where
this
there's
one
one
are being
commodity
built
the
in the
Bedouin
centre
have
of
never
each
had
new
before,
village.
and that's education. In 1952, there wasn't a single school, and the only form of education was when boys, and only the boys, were
The
taught to
United
read from
Arab
the
Emirates
Quran.
plans for the
Now
development
there
of
are well over
education
200
lie chiefly
schools
in the
across the
building of
Emirates,
primary schools.
with a total of
They're essential to give
73,000
the next
pupils.
generation the best possible start in modern society. During the break,
At break
the children
time,
are given
the oranges and
biscuits,
biscuits are provided by the
enough
state.
food to allow
But
each
the real
small body
handout
the
is
energy
bigger
it
than
needs
that,
for a
because
hard day in
here,
the classroom and the
education isn't
playground.
simply free. Parents are actually paid a monthly sum for every child they have attending school. This serves the double purpose of ensuring there's no financial hardship and of winning over those parents who are reluctant to break with tradition. Education's only compulsory up to the age of 12. Women teachers are only a part of the revolution that the school's program is bringing about. Mixed classes like these are still fairly rare, but they're on the increase and changing the traditions of centuries.
Most of these children live in the new village.
Most of these children live in the village, but this boy doesn't.
Some, though,
His
like
father,
this boy,
caught
have
between
not
2
yet made the
worlds,
move.
allows him an
His father
education,
camps just
but still
outside the
lives in
village,
his shack out
tending
in the
his
desert.
camels according to the old ways, but nevertheless understanding the vital need to schooling for his son.
The emphasis at the moment is on primary education, although if their parents agree, these children will be able to continue their studies until the age of 18. Beyond that, students have to go abroad, as there's no university at the moment. But one's in the process of being built, and it will certainly be ready by the time these children need it.
School closes
over
for another day, and there's
like
the usual
children the world
joyous
over, they
stampede for
simply
home.
can't wait to get
And home
home
in
to
Al
mum.
Khazna means, as it does the whole world over, father and mother, food, playtime, and then bed, rest for
It
another busy
looks an
day.
ordinary enough scene, but in fact it isn't. The difference is that other children go home to a mother who herself knows what it's like to go to school. Most of these children
It's
are
through the new
hurrying home to
meaningful
parents
lives of
who've
these
had
young
no
children
such
who
experience.
fit so easily
So when
into
their lessons
changes
have
such as
ended, these young
that the
pupils
Bedouins
unconsciously
themselves are
turn into
changing.
teachers, bringing home
Women
not
now
merely
lead
new
more
facts or new
satisfying
ideas,
lives.
but new attitudes
No
and
longer
new
being
expectations.
the shepherds, the workers, they're
Things
able to
can
look
never be
after
the same
homes
for
of
the
their
Bedouin,
own.
and this is
Homes
the
of which they can
generation
be
that will
proud.
prove it.
They can spend more time with their children after school. Benefit also from the new thoughts that education has planted in the young minds. The easing of suit about by greater stability means that family life. The government sees the provision of these villages with their modern home at last, and there's the
For the
traditional
parents,
Bedouin evening
living in the
coffee,
new village is
seated with the
already
whole
something of an
family outside
education.
the new house.
It means a
and
lot
some
of the
friends
old
as
ways
well.
have to be discarded and new ones learned. The settled existence gives increased prominence to family life and sets in motion subtle changes in the relationships between man and wife, parents and children.
Bedouin families have in the past been kept small. The need to move,
Women
to keep
especially
moving,
benefit,
meant a limit to the
freed
number
from
of
the
children a
pressures of
woman could
maintaining a
have.
household that's continually
Sickness,
being
too, was a
uprooted.
problem for a
They've
nomadic
more time
people.
to spend with their children.
But now, here in Al Khazna, one of the older members of the village community is Ghaffar Sultan. He says, "My sons are learning in this school. And as I look about me here,
The
I
changes have
wonder
been
how this all
welcomed by
happened
all
so
generations.
fast in Al Khazna.
Ghaffar
It
Sultan
seems
knew
that
the
only
old
last
ways.
year, this
Now
was
he
sand,
looks about him in
hills,
amazement
wild
because it's
trees
all
and
happened so
rocks.
quickly. Where once there was just
Now
desert,
some to
now
learn
there's
the
a
ways of
school
the world.
where his own sons
Now
are
we have
learning
this
about
school,
the wider
so
world.
that our children might
But
know
though he
more
can't
about what
help
is
feeling
happening about
bewildered,
us."
he's certain he approves.
وحنا كنا صحيح أول وأبو ظبي صار قد أو من أول يوم قديم صارت يعني الوقت شوي
Before the
لاحظوا
changes,
جماعة
he said,
وصار
life was
الوقت
rough
يعني
for the nomads
فيه
of Abu
ضيق شوي
Dhabi. It was
الناس
all
البدو
hard
بالباب
work and
يكذبون
travelling. But now everything is different. Instead of one village, there are 100. And it's all due to the efforts of Sheikh Zayed. Long may he rule.
والله يطول عمر الشيخ زايد وكان الحمد لله أدى مجهوده في هذه البلد وكانت الحمد لله البلد أول بلد وحده واليوم صارت 100 بلد.
Khazna, there's a clinic.
Facilities in
A stable
education are
life in a
matched by
permanent
health
place
care.
means that sick
Villages
people
have
can be
their own
treated
clinic,
regularly.
which is able to
Children
cope with most
vaccinated
common
against
ailments.
disease,
And like
and
the
their
schooling,
health
it's
carefully
free
watched.
to all.
Clinics like these are fully equipped and manned by qualified, friendly staff.
The pharmacist in charge here is an Indian. The
This
Emirates are still
prescription
lacking
means
in
an end
trained
to an ailment
personnel.
that a few
His
years
patient's
ago
from
might never have been
Baluchistan,
treated
a
at
worker
all.
on the building sites. The pharmacist treats everything from stomach upsets to bronchitis. But if he needs help, he's got an ambulance on permanent standby to take patients into hospital in the town. Eventually,
That
every
future
community of
generations
over
will also
1,000 will
enjoy
have
good
its own
health.
clinic, with smaller communities visited by mobile units.
Medical treatment is of a very high standard, and it comes free for everyone.
As every treatment is recorded, case histories build up
Proper
to bring
records are
these
kept
once
here,
elusive
ready for
nomads into the
transfer if a
bureaucratic
patient needs
world.
specialist care at a hospital in Abu Dhabi.
At the national level, there's already been considerable progress against diseases such as TB and gastroenteritis, which once were killers in the remoter areas.
Mohammed Mubarak is a
Mohammed
man who,
Mubarak
with his
sees it
family,
all as
still
progress,
lives in the desert,
yet he still
3
can't bring
miles
himself
from
to
the new
live in the
village.
new village.
He says, "I can see how much good is in
He's
this
worried
village
about
for
his
our people.
camels. They might
And
be
yet,
killed if he
I've
lived
not
near
been
the
able
road.
to bring myself
And
to
if
live
that
there,
happened, he'd
near this
lose the
main
money
highway
he gets for
where
keeping
my
them.
camels might get
So
killed.
he's staying on in his
And of
traditional
course,
shack
I would
out
not
in
be
the
paid
desert,
for them if
3
that
miles
happened.
from the village.
And what would happen to me if I lost my animals? What about my family?" We know a
He
new
says,
house would be more
"I
comfortable
can see how
than this
much
old
good is
place
in the
of ours,
village for our people.
and my family would
We
be
know
much
a
happier
new
too,
house would be more
because their
comfortable
friends
than
have
this
gone to the
old
new
place.
village.
But I have lived so long in the desert with my camels and goats. Moving to the village is a very hard decision to take.
We do use the shops. We buy food there and small things for the children. That makes life much easier.
Mohammed does use the village. He
And
finds
my
it
wife
convenient
takes the
to buy
baby
the
and the children
family's
to the
food
clinic,
there, and his
to be
wife
sure
takes the
they're
baby
well
to the
and
clinic
keeping
for
fit.
regular checkups. At the school, his sons are learning to read and write, which is something he never did. But even though all his friends have moved, he
The
still
teachers
clings
at
to
the
the
new
old
school
life.
are helping my sons to learn many new things. They can read and write, which I never learned to do. And one day, they'll probably want to leave the desert and get work in Abu Dhabi. They must first have this education.
Whatever his own doubts, Mohammed knows
But
that
for me
his
to go
sons
and
will
live in the
move
village,
as soon as they are
that's
able
a hard
to.
decision to
And
make.
they'll have plenty
I've
of
lived
choice,
so long in
for
the
the new
desert
villages
that
are
my
springing up all
new
over the
villages
Emirates.
like this one are springing out of the hot sand all over the Emirates. For years it's been the avowed wish of Sheikh Zayed and his government that their people should live in good homes.
Although the scheme's being
Only this
supervised
way
by the
can
government,
Bedouin
most
families
of the
live in
actual
harmony
buildings done by
and thus
Indian
ensure the
firms,
future
using
well-being
labourers from
and social
Pakistan.
prosperity of the nation. And it is this way that all the people can benefit from the oil riches that have brought so much hope.
Building in remote
Building
areas
is to the
creates
highest
problems of
standards,
supply,
and materials
especially
are
when
often
so
brought
many
hundreds of
materials
miles
have to
to
be
the new
imported.
village sites.
But the most important material, concrete, is now produced locally.
The chief building
After a
material used
decade
is
of expensive
concrete.
imports, the Emirates are now exploiting local quarries. And despite the massive building boom, the area
It's
is now
bound to the
approaching
steel grids, which
self-sufficiency.
are woven in patterns
It can't
that will
produce
give
yet
strength,
the steel
stay light
rods that
enough for the
reinforce
houses
the
to remain
concrete,
cool
although
at
there
the
are
hottest
plans
times of
to
the year.
construct steel rolling mills. The materials used are all of the highest standard, and so too is the workmanship. The main reason is that the government is paying for the job to be done properly. But there is another reason, and that is that everyone on the site knows that the scheme has the very personal interest of Sheikh Zayed himself. And on his frequent and unannounced visits of inspection, he's quite capable of carrying out his own quality check with a sledgehammer. And if anything doesn't come up to his standards, then it all has to come down.
The shutters come away from the dried concrete. The walls stand ready for roofs to be built over them and for completing floors and windows.
This site is
High on a
especially
faraway
liable
hill,
to visits from
the
the
desert
ruler.
palace
It's
of
built
Sheikh
within
Zayed
sight of
looks
one of his
down on this new
palaces.
dream for the Bedouin people. New homes that will mean an end to those rough desert shacks of the past. Homes that are clean, modern, spacious and hygienic.
After inspecting the early models, Sheikh Zayed decided
They're
they're too
painted the
small,
traditional
so the
sheer
latest
gleaming
versions
white
are more
of the Middle
spacious,
East.
with a bigger
And their design
courtyard for the
preserves
animals.
many features of the Bedouin way of life. The sitting room is separated from the living quarters, and there's space for the family camels to be
Demand
kept.
for the houses is so great that as a village nears completion, Bedouin families camp outside, often for weeks on end, to make sure
Such is
they
the
get a home.
excitement among the Bedouin people that families sometimes camp outside a new village months before the houses are completed. They want to be the first to
The
move in.
houses are free, but the people don't see it as charity, and neither
Children,
does Sheikh Zayed.
camels,
As far
lorries,
as he's
and Land
concerned,
Rovers,
the
if
new
they have
oil
them,
wealth of
and
Abu
all the
Dhabi
family
belongs to the
possessions
people,
patiently
and
wait
it's his
for the new
job to see
home.
that they get their share. From the outside, it looks like progressive social thinking, and so it is. But seen from the inside, Zayed is simply shouldering the traditional responsibilities of a Bedouin chief.
For most of the people, houses like this have always been a faraway dream.
The rooms
Houses
are
that have
large, the
running
walls
water,
are solid, offering the
washing
Bedouin a
facilities,
hitherto undreamed of protection
drainage,
from the desert's harshness.
plenty of space,
The question is, what
and
effect
with
will this
safety
have
from
on the Bedouin
sandstorm and marauder.
themselves? In the past, the Bedouin never tamed the desert. They survived by adapting to it. And
When
in
at
doing
last they
so,
do move in,
they evolved
the
a
Bedouin bring
remarkable
little
code of
furniture
behavior
with them.
based on
The
individual
house may
honor,
be a new delight,
cooperation with
but
friends,
traditional
and
pleasures like the
hospitality to
family
strangers.
carpets, the fruit and
There's no
coffee,
reason to believe
even
that
the
these
trusty
values are
gun
going to
are part
disappear
of the new
overnight.
life.
But it would
They
be
come too,
remarkable if
and are
such a
immediately
change
fitted
in
into the new
lifestyle didn't have
environment.
some effect on traditional attitudes.
So too are the old ways of preparing food
At the
and grinding
moment, the
coffee
Bedouin
beans.
are more than delighted with their new home comforts. But with 4 solid walls around them, how long will it be before they seek other luxuries, such as air
And
conditioning
as
or
before,
television?
all the
How
family
long
take
before
part.
the camels are replaced by a car? In the long run, it can hardly fail to happen. And when it does, it will truly mark the end of the nomads' wandering and the
This
beginning
then
of
is
a
how life
new
for the
and very
Bedouin is
different
changing
kind of journey.
as the Middle East and the Arab Emirates are changing. The pace of change is driven by rising national revenues and guided by the wisdom of Sheikh Zayed and his ministers.